Drafting rookies is one of the riskiest propositions in fantasy football, but if you do it right, they can win you a league. And we did this video last year, talked about some rookies that could come in and have an immediate impact. This year, we are starting with Hampton as the first guy. All right, we've got the pick. Come on, let's go. Give it to me.
So the
Chargers.
the 22nd pick.
Okay, here we go.
The Chargers.
Yes, dude. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh.
Here, automatic 102.
All right.
Are you taking Hampton?
I'm with
over
you.
Travis
I'm with you. We're taking Hampton.
Thank you.
We're taking Hampton. That, honestly, when we're looking at the only ADP we have right now is best ball ADP. But my guess is because he is a rookie and not an Ashton Genty type rookie, he's going to be going about the same place in fantasy football drafts as he's going in these underdog best ball drafts. And so when you're looking at the ADP right now, we have 4 fantasy football drafts. Hampton is the running back 15. And I will say, sometimes it is appropriate to be conservative with rookies based on the fact that, again, they are risky. There's a lot of unknowns. They don't always come in and take the job right away. But Hampton is a little bit of a different case because he is a first-round running back. And historically, looking back at running backs that were drafted in the first round in the NFL draft, those guys typically come in and start right away. And they typically have jobs right away. The last couple that we can remember, obviously, Bijan Robinson, who came in and had that job pretty much. I mean, you make the Algier argument, but Bijan was plenty relevant that year, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of the same thing, also came in and was immediately the running back there. And Hampton is no different. Najee Harris is going 111.7, so, he's the running back 35. And honestly, I don't think that's a terrible price for Najee. I don't think he's overpriced when he's going at the running back 35 slot because it is going to be a committee, right? And it's a run-heavy committee. It's a Greg Roman offense, so it's always going to be that. But when you're looking at the impact that first-round running backs historically have had on the NFL, he could come in. He really is the only guy in this range. This is why he's a pretty good play and why he could end up being a league winner. Outside of Breece Hall, who's going at running back 13, when I'm looking at him around James Cook, Joe Mixon, RJ Harvey, Chuba Hubbard, Kenneth Walker, and Alvin Kamara, Kamara you could also make the same argument for. Hampton has more upside than all of them. Hampton, legitimately in year one, I'm not saying this will happen, but he does have top 5 running back upside. He just does. He's going to have that for probably the entirety of his career. Again, he is going to get every touch that, in my opinion, is valuable in that Greg Roman offense. Again, the biggest counter argument to this would be, I think Najee's going to take away from him. We simply don't agree. We think that they didn't spend a first-round draft pick on a running back in Hampton to not give him the ball. He's a talented back. He's going to, I think he's going to have a ton of touchdowns in his rookie year. From a receiving skill set standpoint, he's proven in college that he can do that, even though it's not his forte. So with the price that you have Hampton going out, I think he could be an impact rookie come year one, and I think you could look at him being a potential league winner when we look back at the 2025-2026 season.
So similar to Hampton, but to a little bit of a lesser degree, you got a situation in Pittsburgh that really is just ideal for Caleb Johnson. And look, I understand that he was a 3rd-round pick.
We have the pick.
We're back. That's a good pick. I understand that a lot of people are going to be weary of someone who doesn't have the draft capital pedigree that Hampton has, as a first-round pick going into a Greg Roman offense. But, I think you kind of got to give a little respect to Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin and what they've been able to do in the run game there consistently over the last few years with really less than ideal running back performances by Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Caleb Johnson is a guy who can take on a full 3-down bell cow workload. That's what they drafted him for. That's what they drafted him day 2 to be. And, Najee Harris is no longer in that conversation. He's now with the Chargers alongside Hampton. Jaylen Warren is still there, but again, I don't think anyone's gonna say that Jaylen Warren is gonna take away from Caleb Johnson and the types of snaps that he's gonna play in that offense because you know exactly what Jaylen Warren is, right? He's kind of a change of pace, receiving skill set, kind of scat back type. And when you're looking at Caleb Johnson and what that means for his upside, or will that take away from his upside? It just is not, right? Jaylen Warren is a really, really nice pairing for any sort of lead running back that's going to be in Pittsburgh long term. So looking at Caleb Johnson's price right now, this is where it gets interesting. So he's going actually right there, just a couple spots later than Quinshon Judkins according to ADP. I obviously like Quinshon there, but there's an RB2 that's going a half round ahead of Caleb Johnson, and that's David Montgomery. We've had extensive conversations about David Montgomery both on this channel and our other channel in Dynasty, but with David Montgomery, I think the biggest concern concern and the biggest reservation that we have with him is while he offers a nice high floor for a lot of people, number one, you're looking at a no longer Ben Johnson run offense, which is a big concern with how effective their run game is going to be and how deep their run game could be in terms of the production that it's going to offer. It might just be Gibbs and a little less of money. That all that to say, Jahmyr Gibbs is the running back one there. You're talking about David Montgomery being the running back two in the Lions offense, where that room, not only the running back room, but the receiving room is very crowded, and that kind of leaves you with a good number of concerns. Caleb Johnson, right away, is going to be the lead running back there. He's going to have the lead role. He's back to back right now with Tony Pollard. And when you're looking at Tony Pollard, here's the best thing that we can take away from this. Tony Pollard was running back 21 last year, and I think that's why I think you're getting a really good gamble, or a really good price for Caleb Johnson right now. It's not a secret what Tony Pollard's going to do this year, or what you think he's going to do. I don't think anyone in their right mind, after what they saw Tony Pollard do last season, is going to be ultra high on what he's going to be doing this year. It's not going to be much different, right? You're going to get mid to low end running back to production. If that is where Caleb Johnson's being drafted, what's the likelihood that he is the lead running back in Pittsburgh's offense is going to be a mid to low end running back too as a rookie? That's pretty much his floor, right? I think that's being very, very conservative with what his ultimate finishing spot could be in terms of production. And at mid 7th round prices, I think you got to be pretty excited about taking that shot. I get that he's a rookie. I get that it's going to be the same reason for a lot of the guys here, for every single guy here, because they're all rookies, right? Everyone's going to be conservative with all these players. But with Johnson, I mean, when you're getting him at this price point with Pollard, when you know exactly what he's going to do, Swift, where you know exactly what DeAndre Swift is, Aaron Jones, who's kind of going down a little bit, Isaiah Pacheco and B-Rob, these are all optimistically high floor guys at best. And you're getting a way higher ceiling on Caleb Johnson.
I was going to say, you could pretty much make the same exact argument for each one of these guys. There's risk in taking rookies, but you take them because of their unknown upside, and these are the guys we think have the highest upside. That's why they're on this list. Tet McMillan is no exception. You should be familiar with Tet McMillan.
Yes. The pick is in. They finally have it. I'm dying here. Come on, show me the pick.
We are dying.
Oh, okay, come on.
Give us something here. Give us something.
Yes, dude! Let's go!
We definitely peeked out the mic.
I don't care. I'm sorry.
Go.
That was jump scare for everybody watching.
We are calling this so far.
So can we have the camera back here for just a minute? Can we just have the camera? What happened? Well, I thought Tet sucked. What happened?
If you're playing fantasy football this year, he was the highest drafted, well, outside of Travis Hunter, who technically was drafted as a two-way, but is playing more as a wide receiver right now. So technically second highest drafted receiver in this year's class, but still went top 10 to the Carolina Panthers. Here's the main reason I think you should draft Tet McMillan this year. Really, it's that Bryce Young was able to support fantasy relevant wide receivers last year, and the wide receivers last year was one of the worst receiving core in the league. Period. You had Thielen, you had Coker, you had Leggett. I mean, those guys are all below average receivers at this point. Adam Thielen, even though he's had kind of he's 34, had kind of a pretty solid end of his career. Last year, from weeks 12 through 18, he went on a solid run here. 8, 23, 19, 10, 15, 28, and 9 points. In the same time span, you had Jalen Coker come back from injury in week 15 through 18, 21, 2, 5, and 13 points. You had 2 big games from him there. And Xavier Leggett in that time span still was averaging about 6 to 8 points per game. But earlier in the season, when those guys weren't playing, even when Bryce Young wasn't playing as well as he did at the end of the season, 19, 11, 13, 13 in some of those weeks there. So what this tells us is that Bryce Young is capable of supporting high-end wide receivers. This is Dave Canales' offense, and you saw this when he was in Tampa Bay as well. He was the offensive coordinator for an offense that was supporting both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin as high, but especially Evans. You'll remember about the Dave Canales offense in Tampa Bay. The X guy actually had more luck there than the slot guy, because really what they tried to do is move Chris Godwin out and not play him in the slot anymore. It didn't work, but Mike Evans was feasting in that offense. And Tet McMillan is not Mike Evans, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, even though Tet McMillan is not a high target type of receiver, because he's a big body X receiver, right? He's long. He's got a huge catch rate. He's 22 years old, 6'5", 212 pounds. Even though he's not a high target guy or was in college, he's in a situation where he'll probably get a ton of targets. Because there's nobody else there. He's twice the receiver that Thielen, Coker, and Leggett all are. He really is. He's the clear number one option in that offense. I think he can get a buttload of work. He's extremely athletic. He's extremely gifted in his size and his skill set. And so when you're considering that Bryce Young was able to support those receivers last year, Tet McMillan being drafted as the wide receiver 22, going in the 4th round, around guys that, some of them, Mike Evans, we already talked about, right? And Evans could be a better shot. I could see that. Xavier Worthy, it depends on Rashee Rice, but it could end up being you're taking a better shot with McMillan. But the guys behind McMillan, DJ Moore, Devonta Smith, Jameson Williams, Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf. Look, admittedly, again, the argument with all these rookies is that I think Tet McMillan has more upside. Look, I think Tet McMillan has more upside than some of the guys going above him. I think he has as much upside this year as a Garrett Wilson. I think he has as much upside this year as a Rashee Rice coming off of a serious knee injury, right? I think he has as much upside as Terry McLaurin. I think when you're talking about the upside play here, Tet McMillan has landed in a situation where he could produce in year 1.
So next guy that we have here is someone who's legitimately free. You can get him in the last round of your fantasy draft. You could pick him up off waivers if you wanted to. Is Terrence Ferguson going at tight end 30 prices right now?
So let's go ahead and see. Defensive or offensive line here. Let's see. With this pick, the LA Rams select. Wow. Okay, so they do take a tight end.
Nice.
Now, I do like this, Ryan. Ryan's going to like
for
this
me.
as well because Ryan has liked Terrence Ferguson a lot. I'm glad that I'm wrong because I actually think this is a much better. I'm going to have Terrence Ferguson ranked.
That's going to be pretty much consensus across the board. No one likes taking shots on rookie tight ends who aren't like early to mid first round picks in the NFL draft. Understandably so, right? Because there's just a lot of parity there and not a ton of trends for you to follow to say like, hey, this tight end's going to hit, this tight end's going to not hit, and it's going to be, at this point in time as a rookie or a second year, whatever. But with Terrence Ferguson, let's look at this situation and let's look at kind of the history of how they like to utilize tight ends. I think the biggest tight end showing that you've seen in the past in a Matt Stafford-led Rams offense was Tyler Higbee back in 2022, where he was the tight end 6, right? He had over 100 targets. This was pre-Puka Nacua. This was the year that Cooper Kupp missed a significant amount of time, so he started to get quite a bit more usage. They wanted to utilize him that way in 2023. He missed a couple of games. He still got 70 targets, which is really solid. Ended up finishing as the tight end 24 in PPR. And then obviously they bring in Parkinson next year, kind of just have a committee at tight end. I will say there has been a missing piece in the Rams receiving off and the Rams passing offense for the last couple of years, and it has not been Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp because they've both been pretty solid together when they're on the field. It's been tight end. They need a playmaker outside of the top 2 options they have. And you're saying, well, of course, Terrence Ferguson is going to be priced at tight end 30 because Puka and Adams are the top 2 receiving options there. Yes, that's very true. My point being, Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams are the top 2 receiving options there. They're going to command all of the attention. All of the defensive attention is going to be hyper-focused on Devontae Adams not cooking them and Puka Nacua not blazing past them after the catch. What's that going to mean for Terrence Ferguson? If he gets on the field, look, none of this is a guarantee with Ferguson, but I will say, once we get to training camp, you're going to want to follow this closely. You're going to want to follow the news closely because if he's getting a ton of first-team snaps and opportunities and they're looking to start him right out the gate, and I think that's very possible because Parkinson, he's going to have to beat out Colby Parkinson, who hasn't really been able to take advantage of the opportunities he's been given in Seattle and in LA. Ferguson is a second-round pick. They drafted him in the second round this year for a reason. That's significant investment. McVay wants to get a tight end involved in that offense consistently, and it could be Ferguson this year. So if you're fading tight end or you're looking to get a high upside backup option, I think Ferguson's a guy that you want to go with in the very last round of your fantasy draft because there's a decent amount of opportunity there if he can kind of seize the moment.
He's already getting a lot of hype out of training camp too. They're saying, hey, Tyler Higbee's solid, but this Terrence Ferguson guy's probably going to take the tight end 1 spot.
Yep.
Which again, what shouldn't surprise you. And when he does, a Matt Stafford tight end is always going to have a threat of being pretty productive. And again, you're getting him. I mean, rookie tight ends historically have won you leagues. Another guy a rookie that won me a league last year, probably my best fantasy football pick of all time given the stakes, was Jaden Daniels late in the Flock League draft, late 8th, 9th round, I think is when I got him. Now, I'm not saying this is the same thing because it's just not. It's just not. There's no way. And the fact of the matter is his ADP is much lower than Jaden Daniels, and rightfully so. We're talking about Cam Ward, who is the quarterback 26 right now.
And with the first pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans have made their selection, and to Tennessee, they bring home Cam Ward, quarterback out of the University of Miami. throw up the U's. Cam Ward goes to Tennessee,
all of our
and
conversation was validated.
okay, yeah. So we didn't just
We didn't
waste
just waste 10 minutes.
15 minutes talking about Cam Ward. That would have been kind of embarrassing.
But he's essentially free. You're either getting him as a backup or he's not being picked up at all. And so with Ward, the reason to take a shot is because he is the 101. He is the one. He was the 101 in the NFL draft. You might say that doesn't really mean anything.
That's the cheapest 101 I've ever seen.
Honestly, like for a quarterback that had the skill set, even in a weaker quarterback class, to go first overall in the NFL draft, I will take the upside shot for a waiver pickup. And that's really where you're going to be getting Cam Ward this offseason. And so, you know, I think he's worth putting on your bench. And if you have the roster spots, just keeping him and seeing what he does, at least the beginning of the season. Obviously, the offense is a huge question in Tennessee, and I'm not super optimistic about it. But I do think when you have a quarterback that went first overall in the NFL draft, he's definitely worth hanging on to and at least giving a bench spot to and seeing if he can produce. Because, you know, you never know with these high-end prospects like Cam Ward. And Cam Ward has the ability to move with his legs, but we wouldn't call him a rushing quarterback with rushing upside, which is why it's a completely different situation. You really don't have that guy from a rookie standpoint in this year's class. That was the Jaden Daniels of last year's class. And so, heck, maybe it's Shedeur Sanders, actually. But I think with Cam Ward, he's worth picking up and putting on your bench, at least until you have to drop him for another position.
I mean, you're basically looking at that situation. You're like, the Titans are either going to suck or they're going to exceed expectations, Harry Potter style. And with Cam Ward, I mean, you're looking at that running back room. You're looking at their head coach and how he found success in Cincinnati, specifically in the passing game. If they exceed expectations in Tennessee this year, I guarantee you it's not going to be through the run game. They didn't change anything about the run game this season. It's Pollard and Spears again. It's a very, it's not quite lackluster, but it's a average at best running back room that isn't going to really get you a ridiculous amount of production. They're not going to carry the Titans offense to a above average season, right? If they're going to do well this season and be successful, it's going to be through Cam Ward and it's going to be through the air. Last guy that we're going to have here is another running back. I do just want to touch on TreVeyon Henderson because I think we're both very excited about what he can do this season.
And let's see who the Patriots took here. And if they did go running back, round 2, pick 38, the pick is in, and the New England Patriots have selected TreVeyon Henderson from Ohio State. That is a great landing spot for Henderson, in my opinion. And now this is happening.
All right, you might just had Caleb Johnson to Chicago.
If Caleb goes to
the reason I want to mention him, it's going to be very similar to Omari and Hampton. He's going at a cheaper price than Omari and Hampton. Is almost 2 full rounds below him. He's going at RB21 prices, and his ADP is 64.7, which when you look at the guys that are going around that price range, there's Addison, Odunze, Olave, and then Judy and Debo. Those types of receivers. Now, I like Godwin there. If you want to take a Godwin shot over Henderson, by all means, do it. If you believe in Jawan Jennings over over Henderson this year at the wide receiver position, I don't blame you. Ayuk's probably not going to play for a bit. Like, you can do it. That's fine. But I'll just tell you again, the same sort of argument here. Like when you're looking at the larger sample size here, cross positionally, TreVeyon Henderson, the running back, versus the wide receivers that are going in that price range. You're going to see this in some of our strategy that we're going to lay out the closer you get to your fantasy drafts this year. There are going to be ranges where the upside that the running backs offer in that price range is much, much, much higher than the wide receivers in that range, which would imply that we're going to have you lean the running back position there. And I think Henderson is that sweet spot in the early 6th round. ADP 64. Look, I think with Mike Vrabel at the helm now as the new head coach for the New England Patriots, they're going to be running the ball quite a bit. Drake May obviously has some legs under him as well. He could have some rushing upside and capability. Heck, they could run a 6-back offense that they were never able to do with Ryan Tannehill, right? But you've seen the success that a guy like Derrick Henry can have in a Mike Vrabel offense. They obviously like to be run first, not be an air raid offense. It's going to be probably classic Mike Vrabel, right? And the type of offense that he likes to complement his style of defense as well. So with Henderson as a great pass protector, the best pass pro running back prospect in this class by far, he's going to get a ton of time on the field, even when he's not getting carries. He's just going to be on the field getting that experience, protecting his quarterback and Drake May, their franchise quarterback, they hope. And I'm very confident that the carries are going to follow as well. Don't buy the Ramondre Stevenson hype. I will tell you, TreVeyon Henderson's price and the 2-round gap between him and Hampton is truly almost solely because of Ramondre Stevenson still being believed to actually have a significant role in that offense. And I'm just telling you, once push comes to shove in the middle of the season, I don't think it's going to be a conversation. I think Henderson's going to get a bulk of the work.
So again, these rookies are risky to draft. We understand that, and there's really no guarantee that they'll get upside. And if you want to avoid rookies, look, you're decreasing the overall risk profile of your team, and I think a healthy amount of risk is good for your fantasy football teams. But too much it's not like draft every guy on this list, right? You're going to be wanting to take shots on like one of these guys every draft maybe. And so it's definitely worth keeping in mind that these rookies could be guys that move the needle in 2025. And that's obviously we're trying to move the needle. So make sure if you play fantasy football, drop a like, make sure you're subscribed. 2 things that are free, easy. They take you 5 seconds and they help us so much. We really appreciate that. But we got more content coming for you. Thank you guys for watching and we'll see you later.